Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Sheena Yap Chan, founder and host of the Tao of Self Confidence. She is Wall Street Journal best-selling author, keynote speaker, consultant, and a PR expert. We will be discussing the corporate advancement of women in marketing leadership, a favorite topic of mine. I know you guys are ready, so let's do this. Sheena, welcome. How are you doing?
Hey Dots, thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor to be here to talk about marketing and just to connect with amazing people like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy to have you on as well. I think you check every box on what it means to be a thought leader. So do you want to, open this off by telling us a bit more about yourself, your background, your role, and how you've come to be at the Zenith?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Sheena Yap Chan. I'm currently in Toronto, Canada. Everything really started with my upbringing. Growing up in Toronto, even though it's a very multicultural city, I never had any role models that looked like me in the media. So I always felt ashamed of who I was and my culture. Wanted to have blonde hair and blue eyes to feel beautiful, to feel more accepted. And it wasn't until my 20s when I dyed my hair back from blonde to my original hair color where I really felt myself and embraced my culture. And in 2015, I was dealing with my own confidence issues and I wanted to find resources that really catered to Asian women's confidence. But of course, there wasn't any. And that made total sense because culturally, we're not told to talk about how we feel, what we're going through. So in
Yeah.
2015, I started my podcast, The Tao of Self Confidence, where I interview Asian women about their journey to self confidence. It's been around for 8 years now, which has been so crazy. I've had over 800 episodes. And it still wanted to create more representation, kind of get it out on the global scale. Like you look at BTS, the impact they've created, right? They're phenomenal. And I wanted the same thing for Asian women because for so long we're seen by our negative stereotypes, and I wanted to create better representation. So we also created some books called Asian Women Who Boss Up, which highlights the stories of 18 Asian women who are able to forge their own path, overcome obstacles, and thrive. And that's so
Hmm.
needed just because, I don't see a lot of Asian women in books or their faces in front of book covers. And then in May of 2023, I launched my own book under the same title as the podcast called The Tao of Self Confidence, A Guide to Moving Beyond Trauma and Awakening the Leader Within. And so this book was really important because if you look at the stats in the US, Asian women represent 2.7% in high corporate and leadership roles in 2021, and it keeps declining. So I had to figure out why is it declining and what is the problem. And so, of course, after the pandemic, everyone went through a mental health crisis. Where there's a
Hmm.
lot of trauma we don't talk about, especially culturally, and
Yeah,
people don't realize that trauma can carry through us. It can control our destiny, and so it's important to
yeah,
bring awareness to that to find ways to move past it so we can become the best self because a lot of leadership books are there out there are great, but a lot of them are very rigid manuals,
yeah.
and that's great, but we really need to figure out the foundation. We really need to work on our mindset before we can get into that. It's like if you want to learn karate and you keep telling yourself you're a bad kicker, no matter how many times I teach you how to kick, you just won't do it because you're set in your ways. And so we have to learn to push through that. So that's a little bit about me.
No, hmm, I've been laughing all the way. Okay. So I have two questions following up with that in terms of your background. The first one is you had mentioned a lot about your confidence and I I am an immigrant from Nigeria, moved in 4 years. So you can tell, in terms of, you know, trying to fit in or whatever it is, what that must have been like for me. But something that I caught in your own life is the drive, right? You have so much drive. Was that reflected in all the things you've accomplished? Like, we're discussing off camera in terms of your 800 plus episodes and things like that. I'm asking that because I started the thought leadership thing just 6 months ago. And I had a boss, you know, who is from the US, where I work. He had a lot of confidence in me in doing that. And I was checking with him to say, I've got a Nigerian accent. Is that going to work out? Stuff like that. But I was very confident. Like I figured out that having confidence is very, very important. And data had even shown that Nigerians are some of the most positive or confident people in the Western world. So I sort of latched onto that. But what also has helped is in the past 6 months, even though we have other things going on in my life, I just went guns blazing with, you know, posting online, podcast episodes. We've booked 115 guests in 6 months and all that stuff. So do you agree that um your position where you are spur you on to drive more than everyone else? Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was really important to create better representation, for especially for Asian women, and of course, that goes beyond Asian women. That goes on for all women because even
Yeah.
though we may look different or we come from different backgrounds, we still go through similar things: not feeling good enough, mental health,
Mm,
negative
mm,
stereotypes, being
mm,
seen as second class to men, and so this can relate to everybody. And I realized if I wanted the representation that we deserve, it had to start with myself. So even if it meant starting from
yeah.
zero, not knowing what to do, figuring things out along the way, going through
Mhm.
the ups and downs of this journey,
Yeah.
I was willing to make it happen, right? Because it wasn't just about me, it's a bigger purpose. It's to help, current and future generations to show them what is possible. Because for me, representation is so important, especially when you grow up with none, right? We're still seen by, certain negative stereotypes, like accent is one of them. Having an Asian name
Mm,
is another one, right? There's
mm,
a stat that 30% of people in the corporate Asian people in corporate don't get promoted just by their Chinese name. So a lot of them have
wow.
to change their names to an English name just to feel accepted. And then it doesn't help that we've been taught to just work hard, right? Nothing wrong with working hard. We have to learn
Mm,
to work smart, especially in corporate
yeah.
settings. You got to learn to
Yeah.
network. You got to learn to socialize. Be okay
Yeah.
to ask your boss something. And I know it's
Yeah.
easier said than done. I worked in an office for 13 years, so I know it's not always easy, but
Mm,
it's important to do these, uncomfortable situations so we can grow, right? And take it to the next level. If not, we're just going to stay in the same place over and over again.
yeah. 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 That makes a lot of sense. So back to your podcast now. Like, what are some of the things you've learned from the guests you've spoken to, in relation to this topic or in general?
Yeah, I mean, the most important part was knowing that I wasn't alone in this journey. Sometimes we feel like
Mm,
we're the only ones going through what we're going through, not feeling good
mm,
enough, people pleasing,
mm,
afraid of what other
mm,
people might think of us. And really, I
mm,
realize a lot of us feel that way. A lot of us feel it's just we don't talk about it. And so it's important to have
yeah.
these open conversations so we can find ways to move past it, right? The women
Mm,
I've interviewed, I've interviewed so many different women, right? Sharing what they've gone through, whether it's going to jail, getting raped, getting cancer, getting bankrupt, and being able to move past that. And that is big, right? Because it's like, okay, if she went bankrupt, she was able to move past through it, then it's possible for me. Having that relatability factor is so important. And then another thing that I realized is that we're all different. So we're going to build confidence
mm,
different ways. I used to think
mm,
that being confident, you had to be loud and boisterous and be out there, not realizing that you can be an introvert and still be confident. It's all about showing up as your authentic self. And I know it's not always easy, especially in the world of social media, right? The filters, the fancy cars, the fancy houses, the not never ending success. I mean, it's great, but it's like, especially when you forge your own path, it's not always an easy path. There's days where you want to quit. There's days if you don't even know if what you're doing makes sense. There's
yeah.
days where you fail, where you fall down, where you ugly cry, where you get rejected to the point where you eat your
Oh,
feelings. And
tell me about it.
yeah, exactly. And I wish people talked about this a little bit more, because it's important, and especially as a woman who is Asian, speaking up is also not easy, right? It's if we stay
Yeah.
quiet, it's our fault. If we say something, we're complaining. So there's always this double standard for women, and it's exhausting sometimes, right? We get vilified for every single thing. If
Mm,
if a woman gets attacked due to a hate crime, guess who's to blame for it? The person who was
mm,
attacked, right? It's like, well, why did you do
yeah.
this? Why are you wearing this? Well,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
why don't you ever ask the attacker what made him or her decide to attack that person for no apparent reason? I
Mm,
mean, there's so many things we can go on about, but being able to hear all these women's amazing stories made me feel better about my confidence and realize, I can build my confidence in the way that suits me and in the way that suits you and everybody else who's listening.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot that still goes on today, whether it's isolated cases or in general. And there's something else, in looking at this topic, is some data I found from LinkedIn, I would say, that in North America, women dominate the marketing profession more than in other fields by 60%. That is good for marketing, for women as well. But I've I've have a feeling that that might not be the same in other continents. From your perspective, and feel free to own in on Asia. What is the trend like? Is that just as great in other continents, or is just an America thing?
I think in country like in Asia, I think they're still catching up to that. I mean, we have
Mm,
made some strides, but I feel like it's still very male dominated, especially when males are preferred over females till this day. You look at countries where like China, if you're seen as a single Asian woman in that's over 25, it's like you're called a leftover. And that's the term they use. In Japan, they call it Christmas cake because after Christmas, you're literally a leftover. There's
mm,
so many different things in each country where men dominate women. Like you look at India,
yeah,
right? If
yeah,
you're a
yeah,
widow, you're an outcast to society. It's really unfortunate that these things still happen to today. While we have made some strides, sometimes it's like taking one step forward and two steps back. And this is
yeah.
just my observation. Of course, hopefully by the time people hear this, we've done a lot better.
Yeah, it's got a lot. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. You're right. I'm from Africa. It's probably in the same trajectory. Um, you know, it's we hope it spreads across. And diversity is important, even from the contribution, from one angle of contribution, right? So sometimes there is always a clash of culture. You mentioned something about leftover. So there's always a clash of culture sometimes, and which is why we need to, I'm not saying erode culture, but I'm saying let's update the culture from an angle of common sense, right? Another example of culture is I am a Christian, right? In the New Testament, there was a reinventing of the culture of what was happening in the Old Testament. So the same thing with marketing here, and with women, is that we need enough representation, just as what we have in North America. It's good that they've become a model, but we need that to spread to other continents around the world, so that we can get the kind of development that is needed. Another question with regards to this, um, is the growth in tech, right? I would say marketing tech, because marketing is what I know. Do you think there has been, and I'm speaking about North America now, do you think there has been an improvement in representation in terms of marketing roles? So there are tech roles that are male dominated, and I'm wondering if you've got any insights as to how those are now becoming more diversified. And we are having, marketing technologists or digital marketers or marketing um technical marketing strategists that are women. Are you seeing that happening, or is tech still more of a male dominated space?
I still feel like it's a very male-dominated space, especially tech, right? Tech is very male-dominated till this day. If
Mm,
you look at all forms of media, women aren't as represented as much as we like to. I mean, not that it's not growing. It is. It's just at a
mm.
slower pace. I still see like the same five guys that everyone looks up to. It's nothing wrong with that, but we need some variety.
I get what you mean. We can call them the Magnificent Five.
Sure.
Interesting. What needs to be done around that? I've spoken to a marketing influencer, Flavilla Forgang, who has an initiative driving female in tech in the UK. So that's one effort. But from your end, what are some of the solutions you're seeing as to getting, women into this space?
I think it's important as women, we have to work together to collaborate. One thing I realized that men are really great and women aren't. is that men are really great at collaboration.
Yeah.
I've been to a lot of networking events where men just meet each other for the first time, chit chat a little, then give each other out their business cards, and they're like, let's do business, right? Whereas women, we're great at talking, we're great at networking, but we still kind of hold back. We feel like if we share what we have, they're going to take it away from us. And then the jealousy comes because one of the reasons women don't advance as fast as men is we get catty, we get jealous. And this is
Mhm.
something that's not talked about as much because it's like, what are you talking about? That's not true. But it is, unfortunately, right? We're also part of the problem. And one thing as women as well, we feel like we're always waiting for something to happen, not realizing you just got to go out there and make the first move. Reach out to people, figure things out along the way. The People don't realize there's a huge confidence gap between men and women. So like if a
Mm.
man and a woman decided to apply for a promotion, a man would be like 30% ready and he's just gonna go for it. Whereas women, they're 110% ready, but they still feel like something's holding them back. And it's really more of how they perceive themselves. So, of course, we really got to work on how we view ourselves, become our own best friend instead of being our own worst critic. Be okay to make mistakes. We don't always have to show up as perfect. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done because there's so many double standards women go through. It's like if a
Mhm.
woman is assertive, she's bossy and too much. Whereas if a man was assertive, he's confident and courageous. But
Yeah.
in order for us to get rid of those double standards, we just got to keep taking action. If someone's going to call me assertive, or I mean, if someone's going to call me bossy or too much, then that's fine, right? I focus
Mhm.
on who am I inspiring? Who is my target market that I want to create that change and show them the results, right? As women, we're also not great at self promotion, right? We're too afraid to promote ourselves because it's seen as not ladylike or it's too much. But I mean, at this point, I don't really care. I'll go there and promote myself. We look at like the Barbie movie, right? It's literally in our faces. And now it's the highest grossing movie for Warner Brothers. We have a female who had her first $1 billion movie, and that wouldn't have happened without constant marketing. Like you couldn't go anywhere without seeing the color pink or seeing every other company collaborating with Barbie, right? Even
Mhm. Mhm.
Xbox had their own Barbie Xbox like console, right? So,
Everybody collaborated. Yeah.
yeah, so like just imagine what would happen if we collaborated, right? Instead of
Mm.
being seen as each other's competition, it's like let's join forces and we create win-win situations.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you mentioned very great points there. I think the aspect of confidence explains itself. Um, I, I I hope the perception is changing, right? But speaking to women that are potential marketing leaders or potential business leaders, um, you heard from Sheena. I think it's important to go forward with your confidence, um, and it will grow. It will grow on people. I guess that's what I could say about that. But the important point is what I would like to also comment more about. So I didn't know that that happens in the West or from within Asia ladies. The fact that women don't collaborate. Um, i- in from where I come from, Africa, it's like that's exactly what happens. If men have issues, they deal with it with words or with fists, and they become friends again. But women, there's a lot of backbiting. They keep a lot of malice, and I don't like this person. The person that does not even you don't even know the person, right? That happens even in my own family, seeing ladies against ladies. So I I think I don't know how impactful the shift is, but a shift is needed.
Yeah.
Like I said at the very beginning, culture needs to be made better with common sense, right? So it's important for marketing leaders to collaborate, to work together, you know, and let's leave all this, she's gonna dethrone me or she's taking something from me, uh, this mindset of another woman greets my husband and I'm jealous of that. Why is she doing that? All that nonsense. Let's take it out. You want to add something?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, it's important to talk about these things that we go through as women and the jealousy and things like that. But another factor too is, society sees women as that superwoman who does it all, right? We have
Mm,
to run our business, take care of the kids, run the household, take care of our family members. And that doesn't help us. We become
yeah.
more exhausted because of it. Um, and so it's important as well. We need to eliminate that. We're not super women. We need to learn to collaborate, work together. I mean, one of the things we've done is we've created our own community of amazing female entrepreneurs who really
Mm,
have this this love for one another to soar, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's working with each other, doing business with each other, sending referrals to each other, that's how it should be working, right? And
Mhm.
unfortunately, not all women are doing that. I mean, it's the same. There's always gonna be pros and cons with women. There's also gonna be
Yeah, of
pros and
course.
cons with men, right?
Of course.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes, of course, we can't please everybody. So, it's important to bring these topics up so that people are aware it's like, "Oh, we might also be the problem," right? So how can we find ways to collaborate, to connect, to have this mindset of abundance versus this lack mentality, right? And I totally get it when sometimes you're the only person, like the high corporate person
Mm,
in a corporation, and then you see another person coming up, we get scared because we like, "Well, I worked so hard for this spot, and then someone is gonna take it away from me." Instead,
mm,
we should be saying, "Here's another amazing woman who's gonna, take a seat at the table," right?
yeah. Yeah.
I've heard so many stories of women who like, women in higher positions who feel threatened, right? That the next person is coming in or next female is coming in to take that space. Not realizing, how can we both move up together? How can we both soar?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we're slowly getting there, right? There's a lot of amazing women's organizations, a lot of networking groups, a lot of communities. I've spoken to a lot of women who have the same vision, right? We just want to help women out there and realize
Mm,
that there's more than enough space for us to soar, to take it to the next level, to be the leaders that we're meant to be.
yeah. I like that. I like something you said, which is a bit controversial, which is women are creating their own problems by being seen as um super women. There are many quotes out there. What a man can do, a woman can do better is what I know from Africa. Women have two women days or mothers days compared to men and all these things, which is great. But what I want to comment on, and if you have any points to on that, is I see what you're doing. You're not. y- There is a need for women in marketing and business to thrive, but you're also applying common sense in saying, we need to balance things out, and that is what I see when it comes to this particular subject. I tell my friends the world is not meant to be gender equality; it's gender equity. Because with equity, you can adjust the weakness for the weaknesses and adjust for the strength. But in equality, what we are just doing is bringing everything up at the same time and then creating an overfix of everything. And then that backfires, which is in the example you just mentioned here, saying there's so much reliance on women to do everything because for centuries women have been branded that way to fix the gender equality mindset. Is my thinking
No, I
making
I
sense or it's
I like
crazy?
I like that analogy, right? I mean, I used to think it was such a compliment to be called a superwoman, and then I felt like this pressure to, always, live up to that name, not realizing I don't have to do everything myself. And one thing in
Mm,
our culture is we've always been told never to ask for help because it's seen
mm,
as, a handout and a sign of weakness. And it's not. Asking for help is really what jump-started my confidence. Being able to surround myself with like-minded women who want to do better, that's what helped me. Having someone I could talk to, someone I can, share my problems with, someone who I can say, "Hey, I need help in this. Who do you think is the right person for it?" Right? And because I've
yeah.
been able to tap into other people's, strengths, right, then I can focus on my own strengths instead of trying to do every single thing by myself. It's really exhausting, and this is why sometimes women don't advance as fast, right? Most women, when they start a business, they just wanna make extra money to pay the bills, to, provide for their kids, right? Nobody talks about, well, if you create this company, what's your exit strategy, right? Who you wanna sell it to?
Mm,
Like, really think
mm,
big
mm,
so that you can live that life that you want. And this there definitely needs to have more education, especially in the financial, aspect, right? Women, make less than men, right? Just in general.
mm.
And there's not enough financial, literacy for women, right? And because of that, they're in situations that are unfortunately not good, like human trafficking, mail order brides, and different things, right? Those are just some.
Mhm.
And this is why it's so important to lift all women up, right? To show them like you can go out there and make your own money the right way, where you don't have to feel like you're selling yourself short. And fight this combat, I guess, or you know, th- like learn to change things around because there's still a lot of women out there who feel like they need to sell their soul to make money. And I know
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
easier said than done, right? Because every
Mhm.
person's
Mhm.
situation is different. Um,
Yeah.
but it's also important to talk about these things because nobody ever talks about it. Nobody ever talks about what women go through, right? And if we do, we get vilified for it. Now we get told to shut up. You're complaining. You're privileged. How dare you say something? And there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there, right? But we gotta
Ah,
keep
yeah.
moving forward, regardless of those comments. Like we have to realize we're always gonna have haters. Not everyone's gonna
Mhm.
agree with what we're doing, and we just
Of
keep
course.
moving. Yeah, we just keep moving forward. Like a great example is, when The Little Mermaid, the live action movie came out, Haley Bailey got a lot of flack for becoming, the first one of color to play Ariel. But she never responded to any of the comments. She just kept promoting the movie. She kept talking about what a great opportunity it was, and it died down, right? And now look where she is.
Mhm.
She keeps, moving on to her career because she realized this is not just about her. It's for every other little girl out there that looks like her to see what's possible. So yeah, I probably went on a little bit of a tangent, but
No,
um,
no, 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 no. It's great, and I was even going to ask you something following that. And that's really, from your experience with marketing and PR, and you mentioned the accomplishment on the Barbie side. Like, how did you challenge yourself to take initiatives to be more strategic? To apply your skills to, I guess, move and conquer. Like, what are some of those
yeah, I
things
mean
that you did? Yeah, and what can we learn from that?
I mean, investing in myself is really important, whether it's financially or your time. I mean, in any business, you gotta financially invest in yourself to grow bigger, right? You tell yourself, I'm gonna invest in a $5,000 program because it's gonna make me double or triple the money. Being part of a
Mm,
community is really important because um, you can brainstorm ideas, you can bounce off ideas from each other and figure things out and have accountability, right? You need someone sometimes to just kinda push you off the cliff and then,
yeah.
see what happens, right? If it didn't work, then and you can move forward, and you can course correct along the way. So, I'm always learning. I love looking at, different media platforms, looking at interviews, looking at things like what other people have done, like, especially the Barbie. Like, it's so fascinating to know that that movie made so much money and has created this worldwide phenomenon. And it's just more about a movie about a doll. It's about, of course, feminism and, showing women as strong role models. And
Yeah.
then, just make an amazing marketing campaign, right? People may hate on it. I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great. It just gives women permission to go out there and promote themselves and just be shameless about it, right? I mean, they were literally in your face the last 3 months with the color pink,
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
logo, with the brand collaborations, and most people might think that's a little bit too much, but you know what? It resulted in people going to watch the movie, people buying their products, and making over $1 billion worldwide. So, when we see what the outcome is, that's more important than like, "Oh, should I post today? I don't want people to think I'm too much."
No, no, no. I personally thought the Barbie campaign was great. I thought that there was a lot of positive reaction from all sides. One of those few campaigns that got that working, and everything in there. I do have a question about Barbie, which I'm going to reserve. But
Okay.
you're you're very, very right about that. But let's stick to the idea that you just mentioned now in terms of the diversity campaigns. Do you think we are doing it right? You know, diversity in terms of gender, diversity in terms of race. Do you think we are doing it properly? What are you seeing? Where do you think everything is going in terms of the way we use our messaging,
Yeah.
and all that stuff?
I think it's important to not just promote diversity for the sake of diversity. I mean, not all
Mhm.
companies are doing that, but there are companies who are just checking off a box to feel like, well, here we hired a person of color, right? Just for the sake of it. I've spoke to a lot of women who mentioned they're just a diversity hire and they're not taken seriously. And when they're not taken
Wow.
seriously, their confidence goes down and they're not able to do the things that they're able to do.
Yeah.
This is why having a strong mindset is important to work on yourself every single day because even if you're given this opportunity, you can always prove them wrong. Um,
Hmm.
I see a lot of people who are just doing things for the sake of diversity, which isn't great. Diversity goes beyond just gender and culture and your background, right? It's about, taking this human being and showing them like this is a capable human being who has amazing talents and skills that can help your company grow. So, I mean, it's great that we have this. Of course, there's always little things we can correct here and there. Like everything, there's always pros and cons, right? But I've
Yeah. Yeah.
observed a lot that, there's still a lot of like fi- checking the boxes, which isn't right. I mean, one person of color doesn't make you a diverse company, right? If you look
Yeah.
at the
I
top
know.
companies, it's still the numbers are still very small. So how can we increase those numbers and have true diversity versus what we see on the surface level. North America is very diverse, so it should make sense that the numbers kind of almost match versus like I know some companies. I think if they have like 4 or 5% of people of color in their workforce, then they're considered diverse. But is that really diverse?
Yeah. 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 That makes sense. And I think there's a lot of disparity on the corporate side versus like the actual
Yeah.
individuals that are diverse. So that's something that we just need to fix at every level for every industry or profession or what have you. Um, Shina, you've been an amazing guest so far. We are not done with you yet. There was something that I've learned so far is that equity, equality analogy that you give. I think that's very great because what you typically expect from guests in this space, and I've interviewed a bunch of them, Pona Vinji. I interviewed very recently the founder of the African American Marketers Association in Nigeria, in Africa, and in the US. Um, they've been also very great, but sometimes my fear is always like folks are just going to go all out on the diversity thing and it's a one-way traffic. But you've created a very great sense of balance on what that advancement should look like, especially in the marketing space. So that's really, really great. We will come back for a few seconds for a very quick commercial break from our sponsor. And when we are back, we will be putting you through the dots rapid fire. It's a very serious. I'm just kidding. It's not a serious game, but so we'll be back in a few seconds. Just a word from our sponsor, and when we are back, we will continue with the episode. If you are listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, I hope you're having fun. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. The Marketing Leadership Podcast with me, Dots, and I'm speaking to Sheena. Sheena has been very awesome in terms of feedback when it comes to the corporate advancement of women in marketing leadership. But before then, it's a little fun. So, Sheena, it's 3 questions.
Okay.
And the Dots rapid fire. You're gonna say the truth and nothing but the truth. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Question number 1, what is your best marketing KPI? And I don't want sales. Bonus points if you give a diversity KPI.
I mean, my podcast has gotten over 1.2 million downloads all over the world. Yeah.
Hmm, interesting. I am a podcast marketer, and that is a great KPI. My God, wow. That's I yeah, I'm starstruck. That that's your podcast is awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's a great KPI. Given the emerging world of demand generation, podcast is becoming increasingly popular, and yours it also seems to be very targeted as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest lessons from your podcast. Like, don't try to please
Yeah.
everybody. stay in your lane and
Yeah.
you can get 100% of that audience. So yeah. Okay. Second question, how long do you use social media every day? Truth and nothing but the truth.
Oh my god, I don't time myself. I'd like maybe about 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 hours a day, I'm gonna say, because like, LinkedIn
That's
is
it.
my
That
jam,
that
so
that sounds like the truth. I do about 2 hours ish. You get to post every day. Some of those are scheduled, by
Yeah,
the way, but like you have to comment, you have to like, I think building networks online or connections is not easy.
yeah.
So I'm sure you are probably using most of it for work. So yeah, that's good. Okay. Number three, what is your favorite marketing quote or business quote? That's also allowed.
Oh my god, I had a marketing or PR quote that I really love. One sec. Okay, well, here's one from Bill Gates. If I had only $2 left, I would spend $1 on PR. I mean, I think PR is really important because it helps you build credibility and trust and be seen as a thought leader.
Yeah.
And anything
Yeah.
that has to do with sales and being in business is trust factor. And trust is so important. And you can't take that lightly because once you take away that trust, nobody wants to connect with you or do business with you. So, trust is more than just, being seen as a thought leader. It's also about the ethics of it, right? Gotta be ethical
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. PR is becoming very popular these days. Before it wasn't really attractive, but now I think we're having a change in consumer behavior. And so people are wanting more demand generation stuff. They don't want to be sold to at first interaction. So PR is really becoming more popular. And speaking of PR, I don't know if you know this, but Barbie, um, it was said that Barbie spends more on advertising and PR than on the movie itself.
I believe that.
Wow. Yeah, it's slightly. It was
Yeah.
just a slight one. So, but I've seen some people in some circles say, "Do not pink is not uh it's not the best marketing strategy for marketing to women or marketing in a diverse way." Do you agree with that?
I think you represent the color you represent. So Barbie represents
Okay.
pink.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
see me, I wear red all the time, and
I see that.
that
Yeah.
helps me stand out. So for Barbie, of course,
Yeah.
she wears pink. It helps her stand out. And look how many people wore the color pink when they watched the movie, except for myself, because I'm true to my color. So I think you do what works for you. You have to do
Yeah.
something that stands out, that makes sense, that is always in your face, especially in marketing. Back in the day before social media, they said you need to see a product 7 times before you make a buying decision. Well, in the world of
Yeah.
TikTok and Instagram, it's at least over 25 times. So
Mm,
you gotta have something that really stands out. And pink was a great
yeah.
color for them because it's everything to do with Barbie and her branding.
Yeah. That's true. It's if it was a different color, then
Yeah.
they would have used a different color, same strategy. Okay, that. I like that. I like that. Um, we could go on and on with this,
I know.
and I really really like the topic as well. I Let me put the sentiments in there. I have a daughter who has come out at 4 years old to be very powerful, very confident, and I just see a great future of diversity through her. And like you said, seeing everybody, whether it's male or female, as individuals who can contribute to the economy is the way people should see this, not by race, not by gender. I think we are past um, we are past the civil rights movement era where people are discriminated individually from a large, on an extended perspective, but in the corporate, it's still happening. There's still so much discrimination happening. Um, you know, for some reason or the other. So I think on the corporate level, we can do better. And to all marketers out there that are women, you've heard what Sheena said. I want you guys to, you know, be confident. If there's one thing you need to take about this, do your thing, make your impact. Don't be worried about what anyone is going to say. And the world will ultimately love you for it because success cannot be ignored, regardless of our sentiments. So thank you so much for the wisdom. We call it the premium marketing wisdom, which is what this is. Where can For those who still don't know you, I would assume a lot of people know you by now, but for those who still don't know you, where can they follow you, and buy your book, for example?
For sure. So they can go to my website, sheenayapchan.com, to buy a book. There's a free quiz to unlock your self confidence personality. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And for anyone who forgot like, if you forgot anything I said, if you look up Sheena Yap Chan on the internet, I'm the only Sheena Yap Chan. So it makes it super simple.
That's right. That's right. That's true. That's true. If you listen to this podcast, just share it with your friends and friends of friends, and they will also not forget. But yeah, don't hesitate to follow Sheena Yap Chan, just as she has mentioned there. And this is the end of our episode, guys. If you want to see more, it's at dotslovesmarketing.com. It's also at your favorite podcast player, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the Marketing Leadership Podcast. And I would also like to give special appreciation to Desk Creek team, Content Allies team for their support. Till next episode, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Listen Network. There will be links to resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.